Hey everyone, Henry Higita here with Scarves and Spikes. Where today we're trying something a bit new. This is the first episode of a new segment that I'm going to be hosting called Across the Pitch, where I'll be talking to people who cover Atlanta United's opponents each match day, just to preview the game by giving you guys a look at what the other team has going on. So, with the season opener against CF Montreal just one day away, it's time to welcome our first guest, Andy Coronado of The Ball is Round Montreal. Andy, what's up?
Bonjour, bonjour. How we doing?
Oh, très bien. That's as far as my French goes.
Good enough. Good enough. Yeah, man.
Hey,
Thank you for having me, Henry. And I'm honored to be the first guest in this thing that you guys are trying. I like it.
yeah, man. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for taking the time. First of all, MLS is back. How excited are you about that?
Oh my God, I've been counting the days. I've been going crazy. I'm sick and tired of looking at. I think not just me. I think the fans in general in CF Montreal are kind of sick and tired of just getting sneak peeks of little plays here and there, not really getting to see the team as a whole. So, very excited, pumped up. Yeah, it's just and I'm sure we'll get deeper into it, but it's the first time in a while that we've had the same coach in 2 seasons in a row. So yeah, that's
Stability is a good thing, right?
yeah. But everybody around the coach and his assistant coach, but everybody else different. So
Gotcha.
some sort of stability. Yeah.
So before we look at this matchup in particular, summarize 2024 Montreal for me.
Oh man, I think the best way I can talk to Atlanta fans is Joseph Martinez, right? Like it was very hot and cold. We started out pretty hot. Then it got very cold. We lost our sporting director, sporting director. One of the franchise players, Mathieu Chouanière, requested a trade out of the club, which drove everybody insane. We lost Joseph Martinez, Matias Kokaro, which were our two leading strikers. We were down to our third and fourth striker, and then after the Leagues Cup, we went on a run and we made it to the play-in where we were eliminated by wonderful Atlanta, the wonderful Atlanta. But definitely part of that run at the end was actually beating Atlanta in Atlanta. So that was part of that run that was very impressive and got us into the play-in. So that's 2024. Like I said, hot and cold, and after that, a lot of turnovers from there. So I think that sums it up for us, 2024.
So we talked about, you already touched on the transfers a little bit.
Yeah.
And now here's the full list of Montreal's incoming transfers or outgoing transfers. Now, just an overview, kind of some of the big incomings: Giacomo Vrioni from New England, Jalen Neal, the Galaxy, Prince Owusu, Fabian Herbers, and then some of the notable exits for me, like obviously from an Atlanta perspective, Joseph Martinez leaving. Wow. Matias Kokaro, Victor Wanyama, who he seemed to be like a big player over there in Montreal, Raheem Edwards, Lassi Lapalainen. Uh, an overview perspective for me, it seems like Montreal is kind of betting hard on kind of younger talent, and they're moving on from a lot of experienced players. Do you think that this strategy will pay off?
I mean, as far as the strategy, I don't know. It does seem like this time around their new signings are more based on like data, like they're trying to use more data instead of kind of just testing the eye, which was what they were doing when they did the Joseph Martinez Matias Kokaro signing. Victor Wanyama, it was a beautiful first 2 years, not so beautiful last 2 years. And yeah, that wasn't a good ending with the club. Lassi Lapalainen often injured. Gabriela Corbo was one of the players that I think the CF Montreal fans missed terribly because he was a good defender. But Grayson Duty, these are in this list. I can go one by one, but they were all players that were not part of the plan. Clearly, when I mentioned that 2024 run, it was very obvious, except obviously Joseph Martinez, that these players were not part of the plan for Laurent Courtois heading for the most important part. I mean, Matias Kokaro was a big off-season signing, and then when we're going on that run, he was not injured, but he was not even on the bench. So that was very clear. Now he's out on loan to Atlas in Mexico, but yeah, as far as coming in, big prospects. Giacomo, Prince are both strikers that have a lot of potential. Giacomo is our DP, our DP that replaces Victor Wanyama. Jalen Neal also a lot of prospect, but there's just one thing that's a little bit worrisome, Henry, here for a lot of fans, is that both Giacomo and Jalen have not been practicing with the team. They've been on the side, and people are starting to question whether was this an injury that happened. We knew that Jalen Neal got injured with the U.S. men's national team, but it looks like, whenever they asked the coach about it, Courtois, he would say, "Oh, it's just he's coming back in a bit. He'll be back in a bit. It won't take too long." But it's already been nearly a month, and he's still not nowhere near close. So it's a little bit worrisome because these are big names that we signed over the offseason, and they're nowhere near the starting lineup. So Prince Owosu, the one surprise that unexpected surprise that people might that even CF Montreal fans might be surprised by, but might be Fabien Herbers, because he is a veteran, but he's also been very impressive in practice of how he's just been all over the field. So it's yeah, it's pretty much that. I mean, like I said, Owen Graham Roach is from the academy. He's from the academy, from the CF Montreal academy, a 16-year-old kid that is a striker that has also huge potential. Big story there. So very interesting signings, one by one. Like I said, big potential. Don't know if they're going to be playing against Atlanta. I highly doubt it. Maybe one or two names there, but yeah, it's interesting signings that they've had over the offseason.
Yeah, I mean, on paper, I didn't know about Vrioni and Neal not training. That's a surprise to me. It seems serious because I mean, if those are the signings, those seem like the team's biggest signings this offseason.
It was. Yeah, and
So
then it was, and they announced it. Again, they were signing a DP, and then it's a big deal. They're here as game changers and all that, but now they're not practicing, and it doesn't look like it definitely. I can almost 98% say they won't be playing on Saturday against Atlanta. So yeah, it's unfortunate because you do want to see these players in display, but yeah, we don't know how long that's going to take for them to be out there.
yeah, I can imagine if they haven't been training, then it's very unlikely that they play this Saturday. I want to touch on Joseph a little bit. He was obviously, his history here in Atlanta, that is legend. And he very nearly took Atlanta out of the playoffs twice in the regular season, scored a brace. And that was, at least from our perspective in Atlanta, it was kind of like, oh, that's it. Losing that game, like,
Yeah,
we're done. And we even took that to decision day where there was like a 2% chance of us getting into the playoffs. And we made it. And then in the wild card game, we had to face y'all in Montreal. And then Atlanta was winning. And then Joseph scores a brace again. And
yeah.
then we're going to penalties and it's nervous. We make it through though. But Joseph, he seemed like a big player even for y'all last season. I'm just curious, do you have any insight on why he left Montreal?
Well, look, I mean, it was at the beginning. It just there was a whole drama with Joseph during the summertime where the coach said a clip that went viral that said, uh, you know, um, "I give you my hand until you betray me," when he was talking about Joseph, and it seemed like Joseph had betrayed him in some way. He was like the different person that he had first spoken to on the phone, and it was one of those things that it surprised everybody because everybody expected Joseph to be a professional. And once we got to that run at the end of the season, it just seemed like something clicked with Joseph. And what they were saying around the club, a lot of people were saying, is that he actually started just playing for himself. He stopped caring about anything else. He just was like, I'm gonna play for me and play for, if we win, cool, but I'm doing this for me. This is a me thing. So that's when he woke up and he started doing things that seemed supernatural compared to him at the beginning of the season, where he just seemed to completely, dictate the offense with Caden Clark and Bryce Duke, and he seemed to be well positioned. He seemed to know exactly how to communicate with them. Um, at the end, it does seem like they were trying to re-sign him, and he really wanted to stay in Montreal. That's what the rumors are. He wanted to stay in Montreal. He was okay with playing with Laurent Courtois at the end, but at the end, what happened was that they couldn't come to an agreement for. So now he's with the San Jose Earthquakes, which they seem to be get loading up nicely for next season. So yeah, I mean, the big chunk to miss, and like I just mentioned, that Giacomo Vioni is nowhere near to play. So we'll see how that plays out for us.
Yeah, and I mean, we've talked about it on our show a lot. Like Joseph, his attitude, like we're familiar with that. His personality. So it's going to be interesting to see how he fits in with the rest of those personalities over at San Jose.
Yeah.
But back to Montreal, a final kind of look at these transfers. Uh, when we look at the signings that Montreal has made, which ones do you expect to be kind of the most impactful this season?
Ooh, that's a good question. I want to say Dante Seeley because he's a left wing back. He comes from the FC Dallas Academy. He's a young kid. I want to say he's 2021. I might be wrong there, but he's a young kid and also full of potential from FC Dallas. That just seems to have been like maybe not part of their plans moving forward. But I think it's going to be very interesting because he's going to be on the left side with Tom Pierce, and Tom Pierce comes from England. He's still adapting to the MLS play, and Dante Seeley knows it well. Dante Seeley is definitely going to be the key, someone that we want to keep an eye on to for the season.
Awesome. And now that we've gotten through kind of the transfer business, everything there, uh, let's talk about preseason. Montreal's preseason. I have a few results in front of me. I got a 1-0 loss against FC Cincinnati, 2-0 win over Orlando City. That's a big one. 1-0, I think it was a 1-0 loss against Philadelphia, and 3-1 loss to Tampa Bay Rowdies. That sounds about right, right?
We won against Tampa Bay Rowdies.
You won against Tampa Bay? Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
my bad. It was
Uh,
3-1?
yes, yes.
Okay, my bad.
But that's a USL team, so who? But yeah, that's what the preset. But as I said earlier, right? It's just we're kind of sick and tired of seeing little clips and making judgments based on those clips. Uh, I mean, last season, I believe in the preseason we lost every game as well. I believe I forgot, but it's I mean it's not really telling. It's an opportunity. Laurent Courtois has said it before that it's an opportunity for him to test out and experiment and try different things and all that. But we'll see. We'll see what comes out of that. A lot of players are excited. A lot of fans are excited to see more of Jules Anthony Vilsain, young Canadian as well that comes from Europe and often injured, which seems to be a recurring problem here in Montreal. But he's often injured, but very very talented. So we'll see. He scored a brace in the Tampa Bay game and also had a few assists in the previous game. So it's it's a little worrisome that they weren't able to score in regular time because the one that they won against, I believe it was Orlando, or one of them that they won in extra time of the game, or Philadelphia. But yeah, it's a little worrisome that they couldn't score goals. So we'll see against an MLS team.
All right. So here we got it. Nice and cool little graphic there. Uh, Walk me through this lineup, Andy.
Yeah, so the most stability we have found is probably in the back line with our goalie Jonathan Sirois, young Canadian, very interesting. Also, Fernando Alvarez, Joel Waterman, George Campbell, they all finished off the season last season, so some continuity there. But again, if Jalen Neal was healthy and participating, a lot of people are saying that he probably would have taken Fernando Alvarez's spot. Shaquille Marshall Ruddy. The back line, like I said, in the midfield looks a lot like what we finished last season. I think we played against Atlanta with that lineup, or Tom Pierce was not there. It was Raheem Edwards. But yeah, so Jaquil Marshall Ruddy, a young player that can really is also obviously a very interesting profile, very offensive, but also defensive. Brings both sides of the ball. Tom Pierce is a lot more offensive than defensive. His defense can be suspicious, right? Like it's and that's something that last season I think MLS teams started attacking a lot that right side with Tom Pierce because they saw that he was very weak defensively, but he has an amazing cross that he can just that allowed for some goals with Joseph Martinez. Now the midfield, Nathan Saliba, Samuel Piet. Again, they played together all of last season. Nathan Saliba is the big prospect coming out of Montreal that they're hoping that hopefully this season he gets sold to Europe. A lot of eyes are on him. There were rumors over the during the off season that he might be some teams in Europe might have some interest in him. So definitely a big year for him to prove himself that he is better than the MLS level. Now the other one, the attacking midfielders, Kwaro Poku and Fabiana Herbers. This is a point of discussion, and this is a surprise because a lot, like the obvious one, like you guys saw last season, would be obviously to have Caden Clark and Bryce Duke. But based on the preseason lineups, Caden Clark seems to be playing on the second team, and as I mentioned earlier, Fabian Harbers is surprising in the preseason. He's actually really playing really well. So is Mahalo Poku. They're both playing extremely well. So again, this lineup might be completely different on tomorrow, or it might look something similar. But based on the little we get, the little information we get from preseason, it doesn't look like Caden Clark was playing in that starting lineup, which is very surprising. Um, and especially since Mahalo Poku was also subject of rumors to be traded in the MLS or outside of the MLS. And Prince Owosu, well, he's our default go-to guy since Giacomo Vrioni isn't there, so he's our next striker that will be there. Again, it might be somebody else, but based on what we're seeing, it looks like that's going to be the starter, a striker. Another profile that is that the fans, Henry, are not too sure whether whether he was, because he scored 9 goals last season with Toronto, but Toronto was very bad, and they're not sure if he's really good playing in a bad team or it was just lucky. Like they're not sure what production he can bring to the MLS. So we'll see. See what the Prince of Wilson what he can bring.
I was also surprised about the Bryce Duke and Caden Clark. I thought that they were important players for Montreal last season. I'm surprised that you're telling me that they might be with the second team even. Um, but kind of shifting to a little bit more of a play style sort of thing. Tell me, how does Montreal play? What can we expect to see from them on Saturday?
Look, they are very much a team that plays on the build up. From the goalie, they don't really play direct. They use their wing backs are a big part of their play and how they distribute. They build up that play. Um, but this is the first game out of 7 on the road for Montreal, so you can definitely expect a very defensive game, a very compact defense because they're playing, like you said, a Mercedes-Benz stadium that is probably going to be jam-packed, and people are just going to be hyped to see their you guys' new signings. So yeah, I see them playing a very compact game. Fabian Herbers, he can play in that position, but he's very defensive as well. He's not necessarily an offensive player, so we'll probably be seeing. And Prince Owosu also has a very defensive profile too as a striker. So we'll see. We'll see. I think they'll play very compact and very low. But as far as offensive, they're very much about the breakaway and building up to their wing backs and midfields. It's a very common play that we saw. And they also use their center backs to bring up the ball past midfield.
What are Montreal's kind of strengths and what are their weaknesses? Where is this game won or lost for them?
Well, look, the strengths are that there's consistency in the back line. So there's that defensive, presence. The midfielder, we have Samuel Piet, who is a fantastic defensive midfielder that really recovers the ball well and has great chemistry with Nathan Saliba. Um, Something that is a weakness, and that the coach and the president have said this publicly because they wanted to admit that their biggest weakness last year was the set pieces. Their set pieces, they gave up way too many goals in set pieces. So that's the weakness. That's something that they're working on, and I think they hired a coach, Kobe Johnson, to focus only on set pieces, and they have, for the first time, Samuel Piet said in an interview, for the first time since he's joined in 2017, he's seen that the team actually takes a whole day of practice just practicing set pieces. So it really goes to show what the emphasis that they're putting this season. So I'll put that as our weakness because it's definitely something that they pointed out as their weakness and something they're working on. And let's just hope that weakness doesn't come up again.
Who are the key players that we got to watch in this game for Montreal?
Good question. I would say Nathan Saliba. You want to see what he can do in midfield, because again they're playing very defensive, but he's going to be the one that builds up because Samuel Piet doesn't really move forward. It's more Nathan Saliba. Um, but yeah, some of the key players are going to be Nathan Saliba, that right side, George Campbell, Nathan Saliba, JMR, Jaquil Marshall-Ruddy. How they build up that attack on that right side, because they're George Campbell loves going up with the ball on his feet, and Jaquil Marshall-Ruddy can also blast off on that wingback position. So key players, I give you three. I'm sorry, but it just seems like at this point on this 300, it's going to be, it has to be a whole unit thing. It's an organic thing. It's not really a one player does it all. It's maybe if you talked to me last year before the game, I would have told you obviously Joseph Martinez is our key player and how he performs, but we're away from home and it's the first of seven, so we'll see how they behave as a unit.
Absolutely. It's all about how it comes together on the field.
Yeah,
But one of the players that you spotlighted, George Campbell, he's actually a former Atlanta United
yeah, he
homegrown,
is. Yes,
sixth
yes.
in the club's history, joined Montreal in 2022. Uh, Tell me about kind of his impact after more than 2 years over there.
Yeah, so George Campbell has taken leaps and bounds since he joined from Atlanta. He joined first in 20, you mentioned 2022, when Hernan Losada was the coach, and he got some playing time. We really didn't get to see him. Big guy, obviously beats players and headers. Then last year is really when I think the fans saw him, develop more as a player, where he was, he beyond him being a big guy, he actually was intelligently used the ball to, like I said, move up the field, conduct the attack a bit. He had a few assists as well during the game because he moved up the ball so high. Um, I think it was kind of, we got two George Campbells, one the first half and the second half of the season. The first half was very risky George Campbell, that he would go very high and then lose the ball or not make the right pass and then find himself in no man's land. And then obviously, like I said, I think we gave up 64 goals last season in total. So that was a big part of it, where our defensive line was just completely lost. So, and then the second half of the season, where George Campbell was just, he knew his place, he knew when to go, he knew when to come back, he knew when to pass, and just a big decision maker, became a big decision maker and or a conductor to the team for the attack. Like I said, it's based on build up, and his build up was much better.
Uh,
Big potential for the U.S. men's national team too. Like CF Montreal has Jalen Neal and George Campbell, which are two extremely potential for start to be starters in the U.S. men's national team for years to come. So it's definitely something to keep an eye on in the this season for CF Montreal.
Absolutely. So, Andy, I'm gonna put you on the spot real quick.
No,
Give me your
don't do
score
it.
prediction for this game.
Ah man, think Atlanta's gonna win 2-1 just because y'all are playing in Mercedes Benz Stadium. It's extremely hard stadium to play at. But yeah, I think it'll be a close game, but you'll win. You'll win two to
Who
one.
do you think scores for Montreal?
Huh. Uh, oh, now you put me on the spotlight. So I'll say a Tom Pierce cross to Prince Owosu with a header. Classic.
Nice. I'll take
Uh,
that. I can't wait. Andy, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Man, so excited, just so excited. Thank you guys for inviting me. Make sure to join us at if anybody is interested in Montreal soccer. We talk about Canada soccer, Canada women's, men's national soccer team at the ball is round, and CF Montreal, obviously, and Roses FC, the new women's team as well. Every Sunday at 7:30 p.m. We do a live stream. So thank you for having me, and I'm super excited to be, like I said, your first guest, right, in doing this. So thank you so much for inviting me.
Very first one, man. So yeah, you already said kind of where you're at. Where can people find you on like social media, for example?
Yeah, look for us. Or the ball is round on X, on Blue Sky, on we're there on YouTube. So it's really, you guys can find us everywhere. We have our Patreon now. You guys are more than welcome to join that too, where we have translated and transcribed press conferences, because we know that most of the press conferences are in French, right? So a lot of people don't understand French, which is understandable. So we translate it for the English crowd so that they can understand what is being said in the press conferences. And yeah, that's where we're at. You guys can find us there.
Merci for that, because I don't. My French is a little bit limited. I did take a few years of French, but it's not that good. Anyway, everyone, Atlanta United versus CF Montreal this Saturday, February 22nd, 7:30 p.m. at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Remember, if you're going to be at the game, we have our live show at the Signia Hotel, the Nest on 4 bar. That starts at 5:30, and we'll get you out by 6:30 so you can make your way over to the stadium. Make sure to check the website, scarvesandspikes.com, for news, opinions, all types of articles and content that's going to be going up over the season. And check out the shop so you can get yourself some sweet merch. And if you aren't already, you can become a patron on Patreon, which gives you exclusive access to our Discord and other exclusive content, interviews, recordings from the training ground, and tons of other stuff. But yeah, Andy, thank you so much for your time, man.
Merci, merci. Thank you.
All right, man. You have a good one.
Yeah, see ya.